Hello friends, I am Manoj Goyal, co-founder of the Wall Street School. We have been training students in financial modeling and valuation for over a decade now. We are also running our own investment banking firm by the name of ARC Financial Services. Friends, in this part of the video, we are going to cover each and everything what a beginner needs to know for building a valuation model from scratch. It is a detailed and lengthy discussion on DCF method of valuation. Since everything is interconnected, so don't skip any part of this video. So let's get started.
Hello everyone, let us start. So DCF model is something that has been requested by 100 plus students in last few months. So finally we have a video ready for it. In this video we are going to try to value Colgate Palmolive, that is a US based company. In India, the toothpaste manufactured by Colgate are very famous. It's like synonymous to toothpaste in India, right? Especially in tier 1 cities, we say we are going to brush our teeth, but in tier 3 cities or in villages, still they say we are going to Colgate our teeth. So it's that popular in India, but it is a US based company having its subsidiary in India. So we are going to try to value US based company Colgate Palmolive in this video. We'll be trying to calculate its intrinsic value, and then we'll be cross verifying that whether this is undervalued or overvalued. So let us start with DCF model. So to start with any model, I need certain set of assumptions, and for those set of assumptions I need to read as much as I can about a particular company. So the best source to read about any company could be equity research reports from various equity research houses, their annual report, quarterly report, earnings, transcripts. So basically I'm going to download these things. So I've prepared a list. Let me modify this to last 4 years. I'll be downloading annual reports from their website last 4 years, then quarterly report, the latest quarter if required. Then I'm going to download their latest earning report. Then equity research on Colgate Palmolive USA, and then other documents. As and when like I download something, I'll like update it here, and just in front of these I'll provide you with the links from where you can download and upload this document on Google Drive, so that you can download this document and refer the files that I have downloaded. So let's go to Google Chrome and start downloading. So maybe let's use Internet Explorer. Don't judge me, but it's really good to browse through PDF documents. So Internet Explorer is particularly better in browsing through PDF document. It's better than Chrome, let's say that, for PDF documents. So I'm going to search Colgate Palmolive 10K report. Press enter. So this is the site, SEC filings wala. Okay. So I think when I prepared this video, I prepared this model on 18th of February itself. So this report was not available at that time. So okay, if it is available, we'll download that. So just click on PDF and just click on save. So let's download this in respective folder, Colgate DCF model, and call it as 10K, and is for the year ending 31st December 20. So 10K 2020. Though it is filed in February 2021, it's for the year ending 31st December 20, right? Then we'll download it for 2019. So I'll select annual filings here, and then I'll select 10K, this one, February 20, download, save. 10K, and this is for the year ending 31st December 19. So 31st December 19, so 2019, enter. Then let's download it for 2018, this one, 10K. 10K is annual reports for US based company. So this is for the year ended 31st December 18. Simply click on save. Call it as 10K2018, enter, and then 2017 का भी report let's download. So this would be 2017 का report, came out in February 2018. So this is 31st December 17 year ended. So click on save. Just a second. Click on save. 10K2017, enter. So these are the annual reports that I'll be needing. Other than that, I need latest 8K report. Other than that, I need latest quarterly report. So what I do is I select here and then we'll go to current reports and 8K. This is the latest one available. I'll just click on PDF. This is 8K for the year ended 31st December 20. So though it's not specifically written here, if you browse down, this is, let's see, Colgate announces Q4 results. Okay, so if Q4 results are announced, it must contain 12 months ka data also. So if I scroll down, let's see. So this is 3 months ka P&L. I need 12 months ka data. I think yes. So it's the report that I want. I'll just click on save, and then we'll rename it as 8K 2020, enter. Then I need the latest quarterly report also. So quarterly filings, 10Q, download. Simply click here and it's not processing, just a second. Okay, done. So this is for the quarter ended 30th September 20. So this is Q3 of 2020. So 10Q and then 3, then 2020, enter. So these are the reports that I need to download. Other than that, I need a few equity research reports also, so that I can read about Colgate in a fairly simplified manner. So I'll write Colgate Palmolive equity research report. Colgate Palmolive, let's write USA, otherwise it will show US ka India ka data. So, and I have a hack for you. Just write PDF in front of it, so it will start showing you major PDF documents. So this is for 2019, fairly old. This is 17. Let's write here 2020-2021, and this is India. I want USA, so maybe let's go to next page. I've just opened this random site. Okay. Okay, it's a paid one, so we cannot afford this for sake of free videos. So let's search something else. Colgate Palmolive USA research report, and I think since the annual report just came out yesterday, so it will take at least few weeks for equity research houses to give out their report for 2021. So that's okay. So what I'll do is I'll just okay. So I think we have this is the Indian one. So what I'll do is I'll find it and we'll upload it over so what I'll do is I'll find this report, we'll upload it over the Dropbox. So what I'll do is I'll find this report and will give you a link to download that report in that Word document, right? So let's continue ahead. So these are the documents that I needed and I have downloaded these documents. Now I need to read as much as I can about the company so that I'll be in a position to project its future. So for that, best place is to start reading with the annual report, since this is the latest one, just came out one day before. So I can start reading this. This is their annual report. So in this video, it's it's not possible for me to read this 166 pager report in detail for you guys. So I'll just highlight the major points and I'll ask you to read as much as you can about this company. As much as you can, at least I want the countries in which it operates, its major revenue segments, what are the products it is dealing with, any recent mergers and acquisitions that the company have done, the impact of that mergers and acquisition on revenues, on cost, whether it is accretive or dilutive, about the management at least, and their future plans. So these are the few things that I want from you guys to read. So let's start reading this together, the basic things. So this is the third page of annual report, business about the company, what's their business. So one thing that interests me is their products are marketed over 200 companies, so almost every company in the world, right? Colgate was founded in 1806 and incorporated under the laws of state of Delaware 1923. So like very old company. So narrative description of business. We operate in two product segments. So they have two major product segments. One is oral, personal and home care. This is the first one, and second one is pet nutrition. So we are leader in oral care with global leadership in toothpaste, manual toothbrush category according to market share data. We sell our toothpaste under brand Colgate, Darlie, Elmex, Hello, Meridol, Soreso, Tom's of Many, and toothbrush under the brand the same one, and our mouthwash under the brand the same one. Our oral care business also includes pharmaceutical products for dentists and other oral healthcare products. Okay, so from this I can see they are very prominent players in toothbrush and toothpaste. Along with it, they are also selling mouthwash, and they have some pharmaceutical products for dentist. Okay, then they are leader in personal care, so basically soaps and all. So liquid hand soap according to market share data. We sell under the brands Palmolive, Protex, Soft Soap. Personal care products also include Irish Spring, Palmolive, Protex bar soaps, Irish Spring, and Palmolive, Senex, Soft Soap, shower gels, Ladies Speed Stick, Senex Speed Stick, Tom's of Many, deodorants and antiperspirants, Elta MD, Philogra, PCA skincare, skin and health products, and Palmolive shampoos and conditioners. Okay, so after reading so many brand names, few of them are not very popular in India, but they are into soaps, they are into shampoos, they are into conditioners, they are into shower gels, let's say bathing products basically, right? Personal care products, and they are also into deodorants and antiperspirants. Then they are into home care, including Ajax, Exxon, Palmolive dishwash liquids, Murphy household cleaners. We are market leaders in fabric conditioners. Leading brands include Suvalet in Latin America, Soupline in Europe, Clady in South Pacific according to market share data. So they are also into home care. In home care, they are into liquid soap, they are into fabric conditioners, right? So these are the basic products that they are dealing with. So understand this, these products are not very elastic in nature. That means if the price increases, still people will consume it. right? I don't say so understand this, these products are essentials, right? Even there was lockdown in 2020, people were still bathing, people were like, they were using these products uh, uh, like normally they were using, or the consumption might have increased, right? So understand these things. So they've given very broad classification. Oral care accounted for 44% of their sales, personal care accounted for 21% of the sales, home care accounted for 18% of the sales. So geographically, oral care is significant part of our business. Asia Pacific, Colgate toothpaste basically comprise of 81% of net sales in this region. So they have very high concentration in Asia Pacific region. Then about their pet products. So sales of pet nutrition products accounted for 17% of total worldwide sales in 2020. Okay, so I think this much is enough to understand what are the products they are operating in, the brands they have. Is it a cyclical product? Is it a non-cyclical product? How recessions and booms in economy will impact their sales? Then you need to read about raw material, competition, trademarks, patents. So I cannot read everything in detail, but let's go through this very quickly. So our sales to Walmart and Corporation and its affiliates represent 12% of our net sales in 2020. So they have a very strong dependency on Walmart, right? 12% of their entire sales is coming from Walmart. We support our products with marketing, advertising, promotions, other marketing to brand awareness and trial of our products. So they are very dependent upon marketing. So if they want to increase their sales, they are saying that we support our product from advertisement. So when you will be projecting their sales, you should be very sure that the advertisement budget they are generally selling, general admin expenses should be in line with their revenue increase. Then I'm ignoring this raw material wala part. Then I'm coming to competition. So it is a highly competitive global marketplace. So toothpaste manufacturing is something, there is no entry barriers, right? Anyone who wants to manufacture toothpaste or pet products can do so. So there is no protection to enter into this industry. Therefore, I expect margins to be on lower side. Though this brand have a significant influence over the world, people prefer to use Colgate ka products. Still, since this is operating in an industry which is very, very, very competitive, still, even if they have a good brand name, still margins would be on lower side. Could be higher than its peers, but still margins could be on lower side. As of now, I don't know. I'm just trying to deduce whatever I'm able to read from these few paragraphs, and we'll try to find this information, read this information in their reports also. So so let's read about COVID. So the retail landscape in many of our market continues to evolve as a result of rapid growth of e-commerce retailers, changing customer preferences, and increased presence of alternative retail channels such as subscription services, direct to customer business. COVID-19 has accelerated these trends. Okay, so e-commerce, basically internet shopping, have increased because of COVID wala thing, either on temporary or permanent basis. So they are not very sure whether the spike is temporary or permanent. We have witnessed customers changing their purchasing pattern, including nature and frequency of visits to retail stores, dental, veterinary, and health, skin health professionals. Okay. Then I don't think I need to read this. COVID-19 ka impact. I think you should pause this video and right now go through this. I'll just browse through this very quickly. So during 2020, many communities in which we manufacture, market and sell our products experienced unprecedented stay-at-home orders, travels or movement restrictions and other government actions to reduce spread of COVID. Because of vast majority of our products such as oral care products, soap and other personal hygiene products, home cleaners, pet food have been deemed essential. That's what I was saying, right? For health and well-being of the people and their pets, we have in most instances been able to continue to operate their business. I think this is one of the most important thing that we have read in last 5 to 10 minutes. Their business is not much impacted by COVID. In doing so, health, safety, well-being of our employees has been our first priority. Okay. With significant increase in demand across categories in 2020, driven by consumer pantry loading and increased consumption of our products. This was particularly true in case of liquid hand soap, dish liquid, bar soap cleaners, basically personal hygiene wala things. We believe that some of the increase in consumption in these category is sustainable in the light of changes in consumer behavior related to COVID-19. All of us have became more hygienic than what we were in back in 2019 or beginning of 2020, and they are saying that we believe that at least some change would be sustainable. As COVID will go away, people would stop using sanitizers, people would stop using maybe hand washing their hands, let's say 5 times a day, 8 times a day. But still, if they were say washing their hands 3 times a day in before COVID wala situation back in 2019 2020, they'll at least do it for 4 times after the COVID is gone. So that's what they are saying. It is sustainable, at least some part of it. Okay. At the same time in 2020, we continued to experience decline in certain channels, including professional sales, travel retail, due to economic slowdown. We continue to see changes in purchasing pattern of consumer, including nature or frequency of visits by customers to retailers, dentals, etc. etc. Okay. So I think we have spent significant amount of time reading about the company, but still this is not enough, right? This is basically 1 paragraph, 2 pages. So this is not enough. You need to understand in detail about the geography, the metrics of the company. So what I'll do is I'll take you to index and I'll tell you the important areas that you should read, at least like when you have sufficient time. So you should read this. So read this part, management discussion and analysis, then go through directors, executive officers and corporate governance. At least go through this, right? What I'm going to do is I'll go through this selected financial data very quickly, right? So this is on page number 24. So we are moving from reading about company to read about the numbers of the company. So let me scroll down. Selected financial data. Let's see whether they have given summary of any profit and loss account. How I am able to browse through this report fairly quickly, because I have been browsing through reports since last 5-6 years. So I relatively understand where I can find a particular segment in annual report. You guys would be able to do that once you browse through at least, let's say, 100 reports. So let me scroll down. Okay, so I think this would help us. Not this one, just a second. No. So I think financial statements के exhibit पे we have reached. I need profit and loss account, at least summary part. So maybe let me use the term Control F, then TOTAL ASSET, asset. So this total asset key term I used to frequently reach to this balance sheet, and once I reach balance sheet, it's very easy to browse through profit and loss account and cash flow statement. Okay, so this is their P&L account. So they have net sales, and they have summed up these net sales from all the divisions that they have. So you can see sales is an increasing trend. There might be impact of COVID wala situation, but overall sales is positive. Cost of sales and gross profit. So gross profit also seems to be on increasing trend. You need to calculate by how much percentage sales have increased and how much percentage gross profits have increased. Then selling, general and admin expenses are in line with this. Other income and expenses, we have to read what exactly this is. EBIT, that is operating profit, seems to be in tune. Provision for income tax, so I think there could be some major some activity there because of which the tax benefits have increased, but I think for these 2 years it have remained normal. Then profits also are in line with sales, so like it represents to me a good picture, and same could be found in earning per share. Okay, earning per share could also be increasing because of they might have bought back few shares. Then let's go to their cash flow statement. This one, I'm just browsing through it so that I can better understand these numbers. So profits and cash flow from operation. So profits are less than cash flow from operation. You can clearly see here in last 3 years. So is it a positive sign? Me, I think yes. They should be in sync with profits. So because of some non-cash expenses being recognized like depreciation and amortization or stock-based compensation, profits are lower and cash flow from operations are higher. Investing activities should be always negative. That means company is always investing in their fixed assets so that they can sustain future sales. So they have done capital expenditure. They have also made few investments. This seemed to be a regular affair at the company. Then payment for acquisition. So they have done some acquisitions in 2018, 2019 as well as in 2020. So 2019 May there was some big acquisition, and this acquisition will lead to my inorganic revenue growth, right? If I have acquired a company, suppose I am having sales of 1000. If I acquired a company that is having sales of 200, so now my sales will appear to be 1200, right? This is 20% increase, but then normally I was growing, let's say around 5%, so my sales would have been 1050 instead of being 1200. So this inorganic increase in sales, I have to look closely to this. Then debts have been paid. They have raised few debt, so I think this proceed is financed by this debt. So to acquire another company, they have taken few loans from banks. Then dividends have been paid. So I think they have earned profits of 2860 and they have distributed dividend of 1654. So around 50-60% is their payout ratio. And I think this sums up their cash flow statement. Very quickly I have browsed through company ka financials. Very quickly I have browsed through company ka data, history, products, competition. You have to do the same. Let's pause the video, maybe spend 30 minutes, next 30 minutes reading this annual report, especially MD&A section, governance section, and try to get as much information as you can about the company. So let's stop for a minute. Hello everyone, welcome back to the video. So I hope you have read as much as you can about Colgate-Palmolive. So now let us start valuing this company. For that, I have to prepare its financial model, and I have two options for that. One is I prepare a full-fledged 3-statement financial model, or I only prepare the essential part. So for the sake of this video, I'll just be focusing on this. Let's call it as small financial model. I won't be preparing full-fledged financial model, though this is recommended, but it will make video very long. So I'm going to stick to this essential model. In this, I'll be following 11 steps. The first step would be entering historical data of profit and loss account. The next step would be entering historical data of balance sheet. So in profit and loss account, I'll be entering data for sales, cost of sales, gross profits, depreciation and amortization, EBIT, profit before tax, and taxation. Right? In balance sheet, I'll be entering details of working capital, that is your debtor, creditors, inventory, current assets, current liabilities. Then I'll be entering data for fixed assets and other intangible assets if company have any. Then I'll be projecting the revenues. Then I'll be calculating gross profit margins on projected revenues. Then I'll be calculating EBIT margins, that is your operating profit margins on projected revenues. Then I'll be, like, generally in 10 case of the company, depreciation and amortization is clubbed into one part. So depreciation part will go to fixed asset schedule, and then amortization part will go to other intangible assets. So I need to separate these two things. So I'll be separating it, and once I am ready with separate depreciation and amortization amounts, I'll be preparing my fixed asset schedule. Along with it, I'll be preparing my other intangible assets schedule. Then I'll be preparing my working capital schedule, then debt schedule, then I'll be calculating discount rates, and then I'll be calculating DCF value. So these are the 11 steps that I'll be following. So let's go to next sheet. I have already entered historical data. So what you have to do is basically go to 10Ks, this one. So this is the 10K that I am using. Press Ctrl F, press total asset, search for total asset. This will take you to balance sheet. Just a second. ASSET. Okay. This will take you to balance sheet, and just above balance sheet you will have your profit and loss account. So enter historical data for 2020, 2019 and 2018, all the essential things. That is, you have to enter sales, you have to enter cost of sales and gross profit. You have to enter other operating this would be other operating expenses. Okay, then enter depreciation and amortization. Breakup of this is not available, and this figure won't be visible here directly on this P&L account. So what you need to do is, it is charged here, but it is somewhere hidden in cost of sales, or it is clubbed with selling, general and admin expenses. So what you can do is, you can scroll down and you can go to cash flow statement, and in cash flow statement you will find depreciation and amortization for the year. So you can enter these three figures. I have also entered the same, right? Then your operating profits, you can enter it from P&L accounts. Your interest expense, you can enter it from your P&L account. Profit before tax and tax expenses, you can enter it from P&L account, right? Then in working capital schedule, you need to enter debtors, inventory and other current assets from your balance sheet, and creditors, accrued income tax payable and other accruals from your balance sheet. Just go to their balance sheet. You'll have only this year and last year ka balance sheet. So what you can do is, open 2019 ka report also and open 2018 ka report also, and just enter the data that is required. So firstly, enter current assets, that is receivables, inventory and other current assets, and then in liabilities enter accounts payable, accrued income taxes and other accruals. This will form part of your current liabilities. Do not enter this notes and loans payable and current portion of long-term debt. this will be considered under financing activities, right? So get ready with your historical data in working capital schedule. Then in debt schedule, just enter the closing balances. So I have taken these closing balances from the balance sheets. So suppose long-term debt 7334, and then I have one more debt, current portion of long-term debt 9, and then 258. So I have just added these three things here, 258, 9 and 7334. This is my total debt outstanding as on this date, right? And I can do it for last year also on similar line, 260 plus 254 plus 7333. 254 plus 260 plus 7333. So you have to enter it for last 4 years, last 5 years. You have to enter it for 2016 also. This 2016 ka closing balance will become 2017 ka opening balance. You can go to respective annual reports and enter this data. You have to do the same thing for fixed assets schedule. In this you will have fixed assets ka closing balance from balance sheet. Just go here, and property, plant and equipment closing balance 3716, and other intangible assets closing balance 2894. Just simply enter it here, 3716 and 2894. Do it for last 5 years here and last 5 years here, right? So complete this part, enter the historical data, take your time, complete this part. You can copy the format if you want. And once you are done with entering the historical data, please join me back in this video. Okay, welcome back to the video. Assuming that you have entered historical data for P&L and from balance sheet, so you must be done with this step and you must be done with this step. Now we'll be moving towards step number 3, that is projecting revenues. So for that I need to move to my income statement. This has been my revenues for past 4 years. So I can calculate growth rate of revenue. This will be closing balance divided by opening balance minus 1. So in 2018 my revenue grew by 6.6%, then 1%, then 5%. There is a sudden spike in this growth rate, right? Without diving too much into details of revenue, see, this could be because of some M&A activities also, and this could be because of COVID wala situation also, where they have said because of changes in consumption pattern of liquid soaps and all, there is some spike in revenues and some part of it would be sustainable in future. So now I need to project their future revenues, their long-term revenue post 2025. I need to tell that also. So it would be around long-term growth rate of the GDP of the country, that is approximately around 2%. Companies frequently try to skip this rate, that is they want to grow at a higher rate. That's why they invest in R&D or they invest in innovation and all. So this is their long-term growth rate as per my understanding of the company. Once this COVID is over, like whatever habits that we have developed slowly over next 3 to 4 years, will stop following that. So their growth rate will come back to their normal trajectory. So each year it would be decreasing by, let's say on linear levels, this divided by 5 by 0.6%. So this would be this minus 0.6 F4. So next year it would be around 4.4%, then 3.8, 3.2. So by the end of explicit period, that is by the end of 2025, the expected growth rate of company in long term would be around 2%. Now I have their growth rate of revenues. I can project their revenues. So this will be last year's revenue multiplied by 1 plus this, bracket close, enter, copy, paste. So this is their revenue till 2025. Now I'm done with step number 3, also projecting revenue. Then gross profit margin calculation. So let's do this. I'll go back to my income statement. Let's calculate gross profit margins for past years also. This will be gross profit divided by sales. It is around 59, 60, 61%. So let's say in future also it would be remaining on similar levels. So let's use, it would be on an average, so equals to average of last 4 years, and I freeze it around 60%. The company would continue to earn 60% gross profits. So the gross profit margins in future is around 60%. So using this, what I can do is I can calculate their gross profits. This will be gross profit margins multiplied by sales. Copy, paste. This is their gross profits till 2025. Now I know their sales, I know their gross profits. I can calculate their cost of sales. This will be sales minus gross profit. Copy, paste. I'm done with step number 4 also, gross profit margin calculation. I'll follow the same step for EBIT margin calculation. So my EBIT margins in past are around EBIT divided by sales, that is very close to 24%, 23, 24%. So what I'll do is, let's say on an average they'll be earning around same gross profit margin, net profit margins, operating profit margins in future. So around 23.5% in future also. So I can calculate their future operating profit, that is earning before deduction of interest and taxation. That would be sales multiplied by their operating profits. Enter. Okay. Now we are done with this step also, EBIT margin calculation. Now let's move to next step, that is separating depreciation and amortization. I need to prepare my fixed asset schedule and other intangible schedule. On fixed assets I'll be charging depreciation, on intangible assets I'll be charging amortization. So I need to know the rates of their depreciation and amortization, and for that I need to separate these two figures. So I'll go to their balance sheet simply. So let's go to their balance sheet and search the key term amortization. So I need amortization of intangible assets. It is given over here, amortization and intangible assets 88, 62 and 59 in 20, 2019 and 18. 88, 62 and 59. I'll just enter it here. 88, 62 and 59. Then I'll go to last year's report and we'll search the key term amortization. Amortization of intangible asset. I need it for 2017. So if it's not available in this report, I'll go to last year's report. Amortization, I think it is available. It is 35 in 2017. So I'll just enter here and 35. So if I know total figure, this one, if I know total is, this is my depreciation and amortization. If I know amortization individually, I can calculate depreciation, this minus this. Copy, paste. This is the amount of depreciation. Okay. Now I can have to like project this part. This will come from fixed asset schedule, so I cannot do anything here. This part is to be projected. This will come from debt schedule. I cannot do anything here. Tax rates I can calculate. So I am done with this step also, but let's do some extra things here. Let's calculate tax rate. I have paid 1313 tax and my profit before tax is this much. So copy, paste. Profit before tax and tax expenses. So tax expenses around 37% in 2017 and 18, then it reduced to 27 and then 21%. So back in 2017, 2018, taxation were really high in US, around 40%, and now it is around 27% marginally. So see, company cannot sustain this 21.6% taxation benefits over the very long term, right? ultimately it have to move to from effective tax rate to its marginal tax rate. So I'll assume that in next 5 years the company will be able to move from effective to marginal tax rate, because there will be a time where government will say we cannot give you any other tax benefits, please start paying taxation at full rates, right? So 27% is the tax rate that I assume that they will be paying after 5 years. To be very sure about this, you need to read about why the taxation have been pretty low this year. So if it is 21.6% and gradually it will move towards 27%. So there will be change of how much. I can simply copy and paste this formula. Okay, copy and paste it here. And I need to change the sign, so minus will become plus and plus will become minus. So taxation will increase by 1.1% on an average each year. So this plus 1.1%, enter. So from effective tax rate I'll move to marginal tax rate, copy and paste, copy and paste it till here. Okay, so this is my tax rates. Profit before tax would be EBIT minus interest expense. This will be my profit before tax. I don't have any figures right now here, but if in case like when I prepare my debt schedule, I'll have my figures here for interest expenses, and this will update my profit before tax, and then I can calculate my taxation also, this multiplied by this. This will be my taxation in future years. So I'm done with this income statement other than depreciation, amortization and interest expenses. So let's move so now let's move towards the next sheet, that is working capital schedule, debt schedule and fixed asset schedule. In my steps wala list, next step is preparation of fixed asset schedule and other intangible asset schedule. So let's color this. Let's move to this fixed asset schedule here. So I have these closing balances. So last year's closing balance will be my next year's opening balance. I can simply copy paste this formula, Alt TSF. Okay, now this is my opening balance. I already know depreciation amount. I can link it from my income statement. So depreciation for 2017 is this one, 440. Copy and then Alt ESF, enter. This is my depreciation. This is my closing balance. So I can calculate total fixed assets before charging depreciation. This will be this plus this. Copy, paste. This is my fixed assets before charging depreciation, and this is my fixed assets at the beginning of the year. So my fixed assets have increased from 3840 to 4512. What must have happened in the mid of the year? I must have purchased something. So this minus this. So I have purchased 672, then 216, 326 and 471 million worth ka fixed assets. Okay, I have this data now. I can calculate rate of depreciation now. So this is my depreciation for the year divided by this. So my depreciation rate is around 10%. Copy paste. So it is 10, 11, 12%. Let's say between 10 to 12%. I have this thing ready. Now I can do the same process here for intangible assets. Simply I link amortization here, enter, copy, paste. I know amortization, I know closing balance. I can calculate total intangible assets before amortization, this plus this, copy, paste. This is my total other intangible assets, and if I have total other intangible assets, my opening balance would be closing of last year. I can simply copy paste this. So my balance of other intangible assets have increased from 1313 to 1376. How? I must have purchased this minus this. copy, paste. So I can see I have purchased few intangible assets, then I have disposed of also. Here I have frequently invested. So now I need to project how much fixed assets I need in future, what will be their depreciation and what will be their closing balances. So let's start with depreciation rate. It is going to be in very tight range, around 10 to 12%. So let's say on an average it would be around 11%. Copy, paste. I can do the same calculation here. Rate of amortization would be this by this, copy, paste, and my on an average amortization rate would be average of these four, enter, copy, paste. Okay, so my amortization rate is around 3%, my depreciation rate is around 11%. I need to calculate this total fixed assets. For that I can calculate fixed asset turnover ratio, that is how much worth, like for every 1 rupee invested in fixed assets, how much sales I am able to generate. That would be sales, that is revenue, divided by fixed assets, total fixed assets, enter, copy, paste. So it is fixed asset turnover ratio is 3.43, 3.9. It is an increasing trend, right? So I need to read in detail about their fixed asset purchase policy, in what kind of fixed asset they are investing to generate a sustainable level of sales. It is increasing, but it won't keep on increasing every year, right? So I'm just being optimistic and assuming that it would be somewhere around 3.94 level in future also. So let's link it to 3.9. I'm being somewhat optimistic. This could be an increasing trend, but it cannot keep on going up and up and up till infinity, right? So this is my fixed asset turnover ratio. So now I know what is my fixed asset turnover ratio. So for every $1 invested in fixed asset, I will be able to generate $3.90 worth rupees of sale. And now I also know my sales. I can calculate investments in fixed assets. This would be sales divided by fixed asset turnover ratio. I can copy paste this, copy, paste. So this is my total fixed assets balance. Depreciation rate I already know, so depreciation would be this multiplied by this, enter, copy, paste. This is my rate of depreciation. My closing balance would be this minus this, copy, paste. This is my opening balance for next year. So if I have 4405 worth of fixed asset at the end of the year, in the beginning of the year I have 3716 worth of fixed assets. What must have happened? I must have purchased this minus this, copy, paste. These are the fixed assets I have purchased during the year. We can repeat the same process for intangible asset schedule, right? So see, you see lots of volatility here, right? So to link it directly with sales, I don't think would make much sense here. But it's very volatile. 63, 355, 1422, then the negative 15. So like I'm going to take one assumption, and if required I'll change it in future, that whatever intangible assets the firm have right now, trademark, copyright, patents, everything is good enough to sustain their long-term sales. That is, I'm going to say they are not going to invest in intangible assets in future. Obviously this is not 100% correct, but it is almost difficult to assume how much they would be investing. So you could assume some specific amount, let's say 50 million every year. I am completely in sync with that also, so you can do that also. So if I have no additions during the year, so my opening balance would be last year ka closing balance, and my total would be this plus this. I can copy and paste this function, copy and paste this also, and my amortization would be at 3%, so 3% multiplied by 2894, copy paste this also, and my closing balance would be this minus this, copy paste this also. Let me improve the formatting, alt touch K, alt touch 9, alt touch 9. Okay, so this is my amortization ka balance, this is my depreciation ka balance. This is why I prepared this schedule. I can take them to my income statement here. So equals to, I have to link amortization equals to this. This is my amortization. Copy, paste, and my depreciation is this much, enter, copy, paste. Okay, let me uncolor this now. I can simply add these two up to get total depreciation and amortization, and now I can uncolor this. So let's uncolor this. Let me take care of formatting also. So alt touch FP, alt touch FP. Okay, this looks better now. So this is done, this part is done. Other operating expense, now I can calculate this part also. So other operating expense would be gross profit minus EBIT. This EBIT depreciation is already deducted, so you need to account for that, right? So other operating expenses, this is other than depreciation, so minus depreciation and amortization, enter, copy, paste. This part is also done. Let me take care of formatting here also. Alt touch FP, alt touch FP, enter. Okay, so this is done, this is done. Only interest part is pending. So let's go to debt schedule, and before moving there, let's color. Okay, we have already colored this. Let's color this part also, because we'll be preparing our debt schedule now. So debt schedule, opening balance for this year would be last year's closing balance. Simply copy paste this. Okay, so debt taken and debt repaid. So let's do one thing. I know my opening balance, I know my closing balance. So let's combine these two line items. So I'll say add or less, and if it is less, I'll say in brackets REPAID. Okay, so I basically combined these two things. If it is add, that is debt taken, and if it is a less, that is debt repaid. So if I had loan of 6533 in beginning of the year, at the end of the year I have loan of 6577, I must have borrowed something. So this minus this, copy paste. This is the borrowings that I have done, then I have repaid something, then I have borrowed, then I have repaid. What about next 5 years? Do I need to project this? Answer is no. This data is already available in your annual reports. So just go to your latest annual report, go to balance sheet, that is total asset. Here you will see long-term debt, this commitments. So just copy this, paste it here, long-term debt, and then let's find debt schedule. I think this is the one, long-term debt and credit facilities. So scheduled maturities of long-term debt, this is this one. So 631, 413, 896, 498 and 130 in these years is to be paid. Okay, so I'll just simply enter these numbers here. So minus 631 for 21, 22 it is 413 minus 413 because it have to be repaid, then 896 minus 896. Okay, then 498, so minus 498, and then minus 130. This is my obligations for next 5 years. So my opening balance would be last year ka closing balance, copy paste, and my closing balance would be whatever I had plus whatever I have repaid, copy paste. So at the end of 2025 my loan amount would be around 5000 million. Now I have to calculate interest that I have paid on them. For that I should know what is my past interest rates. So it would be this divided by opening balance, copy paste. So it has been around 1.6, then 2.2, 2.3, 2.1. In future also I expect these interest rates to prevail. So I'll be paying interest around 2.1%. Market interest rates may change, right? And if these are like majority of these are not floating rate notes, then I will be keep on paying interest rates on 2.1%. So let's say this will continue in future, 2.1%. Now I know interest rate, I know opening balances, I can calculate my interest expense. This would be interest expense into opening balance, copy paste, alt touch K, alt touch 9, alt touch 9. Okay, alt HK, alt touch 9, and then alt touch 9. Okay, so this is my interest expense, fairly in line with my like past expenses. So I'll simply link this to my income statement, equals to, and then here enter. And if I change this, my profit before tax and ultimately my tax expense will also change. So control C, control V, yes, they also got updated. So now my P&L is done. Let me uncolor this, alt touch HN. Okay, now my income statement, profit and loss account, whatever information I needed is done. Now let's move towards preparation of working capital schedule. So I'll simply color this. It's fairly easy. I have already entered data here. So simply let's total this up. This will be my total current assets. My current liabilities would be this much. So my working capital would be current assets minus current liabilities, that is negative, and my changes in working capital would be equals to minus of closing balance minus opening balance. So this is non-cash working capital, right? If like liabilities increases, my cash balance increases, and if assets increases, my cash balance decreases. In this case there is negative change in my working capital for 2018 and 19, and then it is increased by 459 in 2020. Now I need to project these things: debtor, inventory, other current assets. For that I need to calculate debtor days, inventory days, creditor days, etc. So let's calculate these. So debtor days is 365 divided by sales, that is this one, divided by debtors. You can take average debtors or you can take this closing balance. If you want to take, since this is in very tight range, averages won't be very different. So if you want, you can take average or you can put it on closing balance also. It will not impact your calculations much. Enter. So it is around 35. Let me change the formatting here. Okay, it is around 35. I can simply copy paste this: 35, 33, 33, and then 28. My debtor days have decreased. Let's calculate inventory days. Inventory days would be on similar lines. So it would be 365 divided by, see, now I need to calculate inventory days, but I don't have bifurcation of this cost of sales. How much is purchases, how much is direct expenses, how much is opening stock, how much is closing stock. So like, since the companies don't give this detail, what I have to do is I have to calculate inventory on this cost of sales. So 365 by cost of sales divided by inventory levels. Again, if you want, you can take average inventories. Okay, so inventory days have gone up from 72 to 95. Okay. Then other current assets, there is no like very logical backing that I have to project this, because this could be n number of things, right? This could be sum of n number of things. So instead of uh, like breaking this into small numbers and then projecting it, it will not, since the numbers are very small, it will not make much difference to my working capital calculation. So I've just projected it as a percentage of revenue, though it's not a very sound logic. So because even if we spend say next half an hour like modifying this thing, it will, since the numbers are very small, the impact on working capital calculation won't be very much. So I've just kept it simple. So this is calculated as a percentage of revenue. So my revenue divided by this, enter. I should have done ulta. So it should be this divided by revenue. So this divided by revenue. Okay. So it comes around alt HP 3% of revenue in a very tight range, right? So like good to see it's around 3%. So I can use my future revenue also to project this. Then creditor days would be 365 divided by, ideally it should be done on purchases, but since I don't have purchases, I'll have to do it on cost of sales. Cost of sales divided by creditors, bracket close, enter. That is around 72 days. Copy, paste, 72, 71, 71 and 79 days. Okay. Then accrued income tax payable, this could be calculated as percentage of income tax. So let me write here accrued income tax payable as percentage of income tax. Okay. So it would be accrued income tax divided by tax expenses, alt HP, copy, paste. So around 27 to 51% of my tax expenses. Okay. Okay. Then other accruals could include n number of different items. So this could be accrued salaries, accrued rentals, accrued marketing expenses, accrued general admin expenses. So let's calculate this on other operating expenses. So it would be as a percentage of operating expenses. So percentage of operating expenses. This is excluding depreciation, obviously. Okay, so this would be equals to this divided by this one, enter. Alt HP. Let's see, do we have any tight range here? Okay, so it is around 34, 36, 37%. Okay. Okay. So now I have these things. Now I need to project these for future. So debtor days have gone down. So I need to read in detail about debtor policy, why the debtor days have reduced. So assuming that you have read it, it is like it would be around 1 month ka over the long term also. So I'm assuming it would remain around 28 days in future also. And inventory days have gone up. My debtors are decreasing, my inventory is increasing. Do this tell me that I'm not selling goods on credit and because of that my sales is getting impacted? I think yes. So if my debtor days are going to remain on similar lines, I won't be able to churn out inventory at faster pace. So I'm assuming it would be on similar lines, right? Then other current assets is a percentage of revenue. Since like it is 3%, so let's say I'll take average of last 4 years. That will also come to be 3%. Alt HP. Simply copy paste this. Then creditor days. So creditor days have increased. It was around 71-72 days, and then it have increased to 79 days. So I have to like see the reason why the creditor days have increased. So for that you have to read in detail about creditors in annual report. If no information is given about this hike, then you have to take certain assumptions about future creditors, how the creditor days would be in future. So since I have considered debtor days and inventory days on similar lines, let's, for the sake of this creditor days, let's assume to be on similar lines. So my debtor days, creditor days and inventory days have remained on similar lines. Alternatively, one could argue that this is like COVID wala period, the company is not paying its creditors on time, but once COVID wala situation is gone, eventually it will come back to its normal level of 71 days. So maybe by the end of 23 only it can come to 71 days. So it will gradually reduce to, let's say, around 75 days, then 73 days, and then 71, 71, 71. This could be one strong argument, and I am in total sync with this. Please read creditors policy in detail about the company or of the company. So let's assume this would remain true. This would remain true. Then accrued income tax payable. So this period the taxation was very high. This period the tax rates have gone down. So it is around 45% on an average of my total income tax payable. So I'll say average of last 2 years, that is 46%. On an average going ahead also, I assume that 46% of the taxation that is to be paid would be paid next year. Okay, then other accruals as a percentage of operating is around 36 to 37, 38%. So it has spiked up in this year, but like it was in a very tight range of 34, 35, 36%. So it would, like, I'm assuming that since I'm not paying creditors on time, like I won't be able to pay my like other expenses on time also, but it contains few expenses that I need to pay on time, like my employee's salary, rentals, etc. So I'll assume that this will, like, as the situation normalizes, this will immediately fall back to its normal levels. So let's say it will go back to, on an average, around this level. Enter, Alt HP. Okay, around 35%, right? You need to read in detail about these accruals, but for the sake of like moving ahead and with certain logical set of assumptions, we can say it would be around 35%. Okay, now I have these figures. I can calculate my working capital. So debtors would be, sales divided by debtor turnover ratio. Debtor turnover ratio is this much, and I have to keep this in denominator and sales in numerator. So it would be, I have to link it to my income statement, sales, and then divide. Okay, so debtors would be 1319. Okay, I can simply copy this and paste this, copy, paste. This is my level of debtors going ahead. Then inventory levels, again the same thing, COS, cost of sales, divided by inventory turnover. So it would be cost of sales divided by inventory turnover, that is 365, divided by inventory days, that is 95, bracket close, enter, copy, paste. This is my level of inventory. Other current assets are as a percentage of revenue. So 3% of revenue equals to this multiplied by revenue. Enter. Copy, paste. I can copy and paste this formula also. I think I have done some mistake. Okay, I have not multiplied by. So multiplied by 3% and then enter. Copy, paste. Okay. Now I have my total current assets. Total current liabilities can also be calculated. Maybe pause the video and try to do it on your own. Assuming that you pause the video and you have calculated these figures, let's cross verify. So creditors would be cost of sales divided by creditors turnover ratio. So it is 365 divided by creditor days, bracket close, enter, copy, paste. Then accrued income tax payable, this would be income tax amount multiplied by 46%, that comes out to be 879 into 46%, copy paste. Fairly in line, so I don't think like the assumption that we have taken here is wrong for accrued income tax payable. And then other accruals would be 35% of my operating expenses. Okay, so this reflects my story, right? Like I cannot like keep on delaying certain essential payments of rentals, employee salaries, etc. So this have came down immediately, these accruals, and then have remained on stagnant level. I can simply copy and paste this formula, Alt TSF. I can simply copy and paste this formula, copy and Alt TSF, enter. Okay. So I have my working capital and then net working capital changes going ahead in future. So this I complete my this step also. Now I'll be moving towards calculation of discount rates. Let's go to this sheet, calculation of discount rate. Okay, now let us start calculating cost of capital, that is your discount rates. So for calculating discount rate, I'll be needing cost of debt and cost of equity and weight of debt and weight of equity. So let us start with cost of debt. So there are two methods that one can use to calculate cost of debt. One is book interest method, in which you simply say my cost of debt is this 2.1%, and another one is matrix pricing, in which you say since the loan that I have taken is fairly old, the market conditions have evolved then, so I'll be calculating my own current cost of debt. So that will be risk-free rate plus company risk premium plus country risk premium. This will be your cost of debt. So let us calculate this. For that I'll be needing risk-free rate. So I'm doing my valuations on 20th February 2021. So like let's go to Google Chrome and search 10-year US government bond yield, enter. So like it is 1.364%. So like this is the current rate, previous close is on 1.364%. So I'll just enter it here, 1.364%, enter. This is my risk-free rate as on this date. I'll simply link this here. Country risk premium and company risk premium, I can source this from Ashwath Damodaran's website. I can calculate these things, but it is fairly complex to do. So I'll just source this data from a database from Ashwath Damodaran's website. So I'll go to Google Chrome, I'll write Ashwath Damodaran, enter. It will take me to this list of links. Click on the first link, then click on data, then click on current data. In this current data, click on risk and discount, and then click here risk premium for other markets, and rating based default spread. If I scroll down, and then country risk premium, so I want country risk premium for USA, so I'll search United States. United States is 0%, right? Country risk premium is 0%. So I'll go here and will enter country risk premium as 0%, and then company risk premium. So I'll go back, I'll scroll down, I'll come to this ratings and spread. We'll click here. This is as per, as on January 2021, not very old, hardly 1 month old. So for non-financial services, if interest coverage ratio is this or rating is this, then your spread would be this. So I need to find what is rating of Colgate Palmolive as on the latest date possible. So I'll go here and will write Colgate Palmolive credit rating. I'll go to this first link, Moody's wala link, and I don't want to register, I'll just close this. And then on 18th February, Moody's announces completion of periodic review of ratings. So like very close to my valuation date, just scroll down and click on agree here, and you can read here Colgate's AA3 senior unsecured rating. So it is AA3 rated. If I go back here, I don't see AA3, I see AA2 and A1. So AA3 is between AA2 and A1. So maybe let me show you. I'll say Moody's rating scale. We'll click on this first image, and you can see here AA3 is between AA2 and A1. So maybe let me take average of AA 2.85 and 1.07. So I'll go here and we'll say 0.85% plus 1.07% and divided by 2. So my company risk premium is around 0.96. So cost of debt would be this plus this plus this, that is 2.32%. But this is cost of debt pre-tax. I need to calculate post-tax cost of debt. So or that I need my marginal tax rate. I can find this in income statement. It is 27%. This tax benefit is not given on effective basis. This is given on marginal basis. So my cost of debt after tax would be cost of debt pre-tax into 1 minus tax rate, bracket close, enter. So cost of debt 1.7 is post-tax. So now we'll calculate cost of equity. Cost of equity, there are multiple models to calculate this, but the easiest one and the most widely used one is CAPM model, which is risk-free rate plus beta multiplied by return of market and risk-free rate car difference. So I need to calculate beta, returns of market and risk-free rate. The risk-free rate I already have, so I'll link it here. I need to calculate these two things. So let's calculate beta first. I've already given you columns to enter the data. So what I do is this beta will be calculated on last 3 years weekly data. This is basically sensitivity of stock to market movements. So I'll go to Yahoo Finance, enter. Here I'll search for Colgate. So please don't click on this Colgate ka Indian subsidiary, click on this Colgate Palmolive. Then go to historical data and then click on this. Frequency would be weekly and I'm doing valuation on 20th February. So my last 3 years would be 20th February 2020 to 20th February 2021. Last 3 years would be, this would be 218. Okay, done, and then click on apply. Okay, so this will show me weekly data for last 3 years. Okay, so this is the weekly data. So current price is 77.20. Okay, and I'll just click on download. I'll search for returns of market. So let's choose NYSE composite. Everything is already done. You have to simply click on apply and then click on download. You have two files ready. So what you need is go to this returns of market wala file. Just delete everything other than this adjusted close price, and then volume also can be deleted. Just bring it here near date and Alt HK. So this is market ka movements on these particular dates. So I can calculate return of market. So if market fall from 12884 to 12557, I have lost how much? So it would be closing balance by opening balance -1. I have lost 2.5%. Yes, copy and paste. So this is returns of market. Then I need return of security also. So I'll go back here. I'll click on this Colgate wala file. Then just a second. Okay, this is Colgate wala file. I don't need these things. I don't need volume. I only need this. I'll just cut this and will paste it here, and I can simply copy this return wala formula and paste it. This is return of security. I should have done it from here. Okay. Now I can copy this and paste it. Okay, this is return of security. I'll copy the entire data and then we'll paste it in my Excel sheet here. Return, adjusted close, return on market, and return of Colgate. Okay, I can calculate beta. So there are two ways to calculate beta. One is regression beta and one is bottom up beta. I'll be calculating regression beta. Bottom up beta is one fine-tuned version of regression beta, but in this video I'll be calculating bottom up beta. So bottom up beta is slope of dependent variable, that is Colgate, and slope of independent variable, that is market. You can also use covariance by variance formula and you will get same results. So beta of Colgate is 0.52. Returns of market. So I don't want return of market for last 3 years. I want how much returns a marginal investor, that is a very big investor who is willing to trade in securities, is expecting from markets in future. And I assume that whatever returns he have got in past, he expects same returns from market on an average in future also. So let's calculate returns on market. So we already have NYSE ka data here. I'll simply click on maximum here and we'll click on monthly data and click on apply. Okay, so I think this part is not updated here. No worries, I'll just scroll down towards the end and we'll see for how long I can go back in time. So on 1st January 85, NYSE closed on 1097.2. Okay, so start date would be 1st January 85. 1st January 85. Okay, and the value is 1097.5.2.02. Okay, and then as on 20th February, I'll just simply grow up. We'll click on daily and click on apply. And since 20th February the markets were closed. The latest price available is 15,362.69. Okay, so on valuation date 20th February it is 15,362.69. Enter. Okay, so how many years have passed? I can simply use year frac here, start date and end date on actual basis. 36.14 years में NYSE composite have grown from 10972 to 15362. So I can calculate on an average how much it has grown every year. I'll apply CAGR function, that is closing by opening raised to the power 1 upon number of periods of growth, that is 36 years minus 1 bracket close, enter. Okay, I've used this divide sign at wrong place, enter. This whole minus 1. So on an average markets have given me 7.8% over the long term. So this is my expected return from market in future also. Now I can calculate my cost of equity. Cost of equity would be RF plus bracket open beta multiplied by RM minus RF bracket close, enter. Okay, so expected returns from market is expected return from Colgate is 4.7%. Now I have my cost of debt, cost of equity. I need weight of debt and weight of equity here. So for weight of debt, I need market value weights basically, but since every kind of debt is not listed in market, so what we assume here is book value of debt and market value of debt is almost similar. So I'll just simply link it to my debt schedule here, enter. This is my value of debt. Value of equity, I need market values. So this is kind of like chicken and egg wala situation. For calculating value of a particular share, I need its price, right? So shares outstanding, I can source this from their latest report. It just came out few days back. So I'll just go to first page and this is the shares outstanding. Copy and we'll paste it here. And since I want it in millions, so divided by 10 raised to the power 6. Okay. So 848.56 million shares are outstanding, and one share is worth how much? Let's see. Colgate share price on 20th February on 19th ka closing is 77.20. Okay, 77.20. So I can calculate now weight of debt and weight of equity. It's calculated here only. Value of equity would be this multiplied by this. Okay, so weight of equity and weight of debt could be calculated here now. So weight of debt would be 7601 divided by sum of debt and equity. Okay, and weight of equity would be equity divided by sum of equity and debt. Enter. Okay, so WACC would be sum product this array and this array. It comes around 4.39%. So weighted average cost of funds for Colgate is around 4.39%. Now I'm done with this step also, calculation of discount rates. Now the last step is calculation of DCF value. So let's move here. So for DCF value calculation, I'll be calculating free cash flow to firm and will be discounting them. And for calculation of free cash flow to firm, that is the cash that is available to the firm after making provision for investments in business, that is working capital investments as well as fixed capital investment, after accounting for every operating expense. So the formula is EBIT minus taxes, that is your NOPAT, add back depreciation, add back add or less changes in working capital, and then deduct investments in fixed assets. So this is how your cash is being generated and being utilized for business. So EBIT, I can link it from income statement. This one, this is my EBIT. Okay. Then taxes, I know my tax rates, I can calculate taxes. So tax rates are this much, this multiplied by EBIT, this is tax on EBIT, and I'll use with a negative sign. Okay, so this is the tax that the firm have to bear. This is not the actual income tax paid, this is for entire firm without interest, tax benefit on interest. Then NOPAT would be simply sum of these. This is net operating profit of firm after tax. Then add back depreciation and amortization. Since depreciation is deducted from EBIT, but it is a non-cash expense, I'm going to add it back here. Changes in working capital, I have already calculated this in working capital schedule. I'll simply link it here. And then investments and fixed assets is already calculated in this fixed asset schedule here, but use it with a negative sign, because since this is investment, cash is going out of the business. So company earned in total this much, company invested this in working capital, company invested this in fixed capital, fixed assets. So whatever is left is for the entire company. So sum of this is left, that is free cash flow to the firm. This needs to be discounted back, right? I am going to calculate present value. So these are my cash flows in future, I need to discount them. So for that I will be calculating discount factors. So I need to calculate discount factors based on WACC. So it would be 1 divided by 1 plus WACC. I freeze this, raised to the power this minus 0.5. Why minus 0.5? If I don't do minus 0.5, it means I'm assuming I have like this 2550 cash I have received at the end of this year, but this is not true, right? I have received cash on on every day, and on total basis it is 2550. So since this is received every other day throughout the year, I have to find midpoint of the year, that is called as mid-year discounting. So I can simply copy and paste this formula. This is my discount factors. So present value of these cash flows will be equals to some product of this array and this array. So this is present value of explicit period. Then I need to calculate terminal value, and for terminal value there are two methods used. One is Gordon growth model and one is exit multiple approach. Gordon growth model, though theoretically very strong, but have one shortcoming, that is it is very much impacted by the long-term growth rate. If I change long-term growth rate from 2% to 3%, there would be radical changes in valuation that I am doing. So because of that sensitivity to growth rate, investment banks generally prefer to use exit multiple approach. So exit multiple is nothing but at the end of 5th year, the investor would want to get out of this company, get out of this business, because the growth rate is very close to GDP growth rate, right? He would want to invest in a business where he would be able to generate higher growth rates. So he would want to dispose of this business, he would want to sell off this business. So this is exit multiple. How many times of his EV, how many times of his EBITDA or EBIT of profits he would be able to sell off this business. This is called as exit multiple. In this we calculate enterprise value by EBITDA. So like EV by EBITDA multiple. So let's go to Yahoo and let's go to statistics here. I've already opened Colgate Palmolive. If you see, EV by EBITDA multiple here is around 17 times. That is, people are ready to pay 17 times of its EBITDA to buy this company. And its EBITDA at the end of 5th year would be EBIT plus depreciation, that is 2627. So its terminal value would be 17 multiplied by this. That is, people would be ready to pay 1,658 million, that is 17 times of its EBITDA, to buy this company. Okay, then I can calculate present value of this terminal value. I should technically keep it here, okay, and keep this also here. Then present value of terminal value, I'll be selling off this business at the end of 5th year, but I want to calculate its value as of today. So it will be this value divided by 1 plus WACC bracket close raised to the power 5. Here you don't need to like subtract 0.5 because you are assuming you will be selling this business at the end of 5th year. So it comes out to be 36029. Okay, so present value of operations would be, so this is value of present value of terminal value and present value of explicit period. This is total present value of operations. And from this, like in this, if I add non-operating part of the business, that is its investments and cash balances, then it will give me value of firm. So I can source these things from their balance sheet. So I'll go to their latest balance sheet. We'll go to their balance sheet by searching total assets. Okay, so cash is 888. So I'll just write here equals to 888 plus, let's see, do they have any investments? So receivables, inventory, other current assets. I think obviously there must be some investments, but it is hidden under this other current assets. So maybe let's search this term, other current assets, press enter, press enter. Okay, look here. So other financial instruments include marketable securities in other current assets account worth rupees 37 million. Okay, so plus 37 plus, there was something called as other assets also. So I'll search other assets. Let's see. Okay, read this. As of 31st December 2020 and 19, equity method investments, so basically investments in your joint ventures and like associates, in other assets in consolidated balance sheet were 56 million. So as of 31st December it was 56 million on 2020, and in 2019 it was 50 million. I'm not concerned with 2019, I'm concerned with 2020. It is 56 million. So plus 56. Okay, this is value of the entire firm. Okay, from this value of entire firm, if I remove value of debt and if I remove value of non-controlling interest, I'll be having my value of equity. So value of debt, I can simply link it here, and then value of non-controlling interest, I can go to their balance sheet, search like total assets. Okay, this is their balance sheet. In this you have non-controlling interest of 358 million. So we'll write here 358, enter. So value of equity would be, let's use negative sign here, minus and minus. Okay, so value of equity would be this plus this plus this. This is value of equity. And shares outstanding, I already have it. So shares outstanding is this much, enter. Okay, now value per share would be total equity divided by shares outstanding. It comes around $50, 55 cents. But don't be so quick in like judging this calculation. First go to files, go to options, in this go to formulas, and then click enable iterative calculation and click on OK. Okay, now what you have to do is go to this sheet, go to price per share, write equals to and link it with this DCF value and click OK. Now I think this is the correct answer. So as per our calculation, it is around, it should be fair value is around $51, and currently it is trading around $77. So ideally we should not invest in this, right? So this is how you do DCF valuation. I have kept the assumptions and model easier for everyone to understand. Even someone is very new to valuation, he could do that. Obviously this model could be fine-tuned a lot, but as a starting point, this is the best you can do. So with that being said, let's stop for this video. If in case you have any doubts, feel free to reach us at thewallstreetschool.com or in comment section below. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. Bye bye everyone.